Jay here for Stretford, Paddock. This is the Paper Talk. As you can see, again, I'm in the studio and we're live, back-to-back lives. Who'd have thunk it? Which means you lovely lot can get involved in the chat. Let me know what you think about all the latest Manchester United news that we are going to be covering. And make sure, if you're not doing already, you're subscribing to the channel. We want to get 750,000 subscribers by the end of the season. With your support, we can get there. Also, while I'm at it, hit that like button. Come on. Give us a little like. Loads of people in the chat already. It's good to see. We're going to be talking about the next United manager. Is it going to be Erik ten Hag next season or someone else? A little bit about that because one of the candidates looks like he could be going somewhere else. So we'll get into all that. Also, as the thumbnail suggests, going to be looking at the potential new look midfield. Say new look midfield. United, again, these rumours about Neves that we could be in for him. So we'll get into that stuff as well. Also, Sir Jim Ratcliffe's apparently unhappy with the way certain players have been behaving. Plus, we'll have a little update on a new player signing a contract or a young player signing a contract. Also, a bit of an opinion piece that I want to discuss with you guys about Sofian Amrabat. And farewell, Auf Wiedersehen, goodbye to Anthony Martial. We'll be getting into all that stuff. Let's start with Julian Nagelsmann. So this was tweeted, I think this was a few minutes ago, actually. And it says, what is it, 10:31, there you go. It was 18 minutes ago. Bayern Munich are progressing in their attempts to secure the return of Julian Nagelsmann as their head coach. Well, I said it like that. According to Sky in Germany. So it looks like he could be going to Bayern Munich. Now, the thing with Nagelsmann, it's a bit of a weird one, isn't it, with the sort of candidates or the suggestions for the next Manchester United manager. Now, I'm not saying, before we all get into this debate, that I'm saying, oh, sack Erik ten Hag or whatever, but let's be honest, he'll do well to keep his job. Let's just be brutally honest here. We've had a bit of a disastrous season. The only real hope of salvation is if we win the FA Cup, and I'd be very, very surprised if we were to win that. I hope we do, obviously. Of course, I want us to win the FA Cup, but I'll be surprised if we do. And if we don't, I think he might end up going. So you have to look at, well, if he does go, who's going to come in? Nagelsmann is a popular choice amongst a lot of fans I've spoken to, a lot of fans who've been commenting. However, it looks like Bayern Munich are going to get him. And that doesn't surprise me. He's obviously been there before. He's with Germany at the minute. He's obviously there, I think, for the Euros. And then there was talk of what he was going to do after the Euros. Could United get him then? He's not really made his mind up. I think Rudi Völler, who's in charge of the German FA, was saying that they were going to have a discussion with him. But if Bayern Munich come calling and you've been there already, you've probably got a bit of unfinished business, then it wouldn't surprise me if he did go back to the Allianz Arena. I mean, let me know what you think about that. Is that something that you're annoyed about? Are you bothered about? Are you disappointed? Are you like, well, we should have got him? Or are you like, who cares? Let me know. Because the thing with Nagelsmann, he's obviously, I think, how old is he? He's only young, isn't he? Julian Nagelsmann. Let's have a look how old he is. I always forget. I think he's in his 30s, isn't he? Yeah, he's 36. That's amazing. He's only 6 years older than me. But 36 years old, very young coach. Is he the right guy for Manchester United anyway? I don't know, but he's certainly a popular choice because you think he's very young. He's done well in terms of, you know, he's won, obviously, I think he won the title with Bayern Munich, which, okay, everyone goes, well, everyone wins a title with Bayern Munich. Well, they didn't win it this year, did they? Also, if you look at his career on the whole as a young manager, he was one of the youngest managers, I think he was the youngest manager in Champions League history, I think, at one point. So he's obviously, you know, done very well from a very young age, did well at Leipzig, went to Bayern Munich, did okay, but then, it sort of went sour a little bit. Went to Germany as a national coach, and now we'll have to see how he gets on at the Euros. Anyway, it looks like Bayern Munich are taking him back to the Allianz Arena. Let me know what you think about that one. I'm a bit, I don't know. I don't know. It's a weird one with someone like Nagelsmann because he's young, he's great, he's got a good CV, but it's not like he's like, oh yeah, he's definitely the man to turn the fortunes around at Manchester United. Also, he's going to be coming into a team that is in disarray, and it'll be his first ever season in the Premier League. So there's lots of ifs and buts and maybes, like there is with any manager, like there is in keeping Erik ten Hag. There's no obvious candidate for me. Do you remember when we got rid of Louis van Gaal? I mean, the way we got rid of him was disgusting, by the way, sacking him or announcing it basically hours after we'd won the FA Cup. But you knew he was going to go after we had that horrendous run at the same time that Jose Mourinho became available when Chelsea sacked him. And you thought, okay, Jose's always been someone who suggested should take over at Manchester United. He's right there. He's just won a title. things are going wrong for Louis van Gaal. It all makes sense. I don't feel like there's an obvious candidate right now, and I don't think Nagelsmann is the obvious candidate. He's a candidate. Let's see, the obvious candidate. He's one of the leading ones where you go, okay, that makes a lot of sense. But I don't think it's like you have to go and get him in the way that you felt that way with Jose Mourinho. Let me know what you think anyway. Buffy whatever says, come on Jay, cheer us up. I'd love to, but it's very difficult. Ole Aston says, morning Jay. Just having a look at someone. Buffy whatever says, it looks like we're heading towards Tuchel. And Croydon Vlog says, you don't look a day over 45. Thank you. Ruben C says, I'd rather we stick with Erik ten Hag, but if we have to, I think we shouldn't be ignoring Xabi Alonso. Sir Matt did play for Liverpool and City. Great point about Sir Matt. Different times, different eras, of course. I don't think we'll get Alonso. I don't think we'll try and get him, and I don't think if we did, we would get him. So whilst I get your point, I think it would be very unlikely for Manchester United to be able to tempt Xabi Alonso to leave Leverkusen. I think he's already said he was going to stay there for another season anyway. So I don't think he's going to leave in the summer. So I'll have to see what happens. Witterbird Vicky in the comments says, good morning. The commentator says, tuning in from Kenya. Big shout out to you. So yeah, I mean, Nagelsmann, sorry, fine, whatever. Looks like it's not going to happen. We'll have to wait and see if United have other names on a shortlist. If we've even got a shortlist, what that shortlist looked like. We're going to be doing a video a little bit later on getting into that, so I'll concentrate on that then. Let's move on. Let's talk about Sir Jim Ratcliffe. Now, this is from, I think this is HITC, and it says Sir Jim Ratcliffe, or it just says Jim Ratcliffe actually, angry with Manchester United players' behaviour as he wants Dan Ashworth in place for key decisions. Now, this is sort of saying here, you can see it, that he's a bit annoyed at the way Manchester United players have been acting and he wants someone to come in and sort it all out. We know that Dan Ashworth is supposedly heading to Manchester United sooner rather than later. I think the latest update we had, and it touches on it here, is that Sir Jim Ratcliffe had met with Amanda Staveley from Newcastle to try and get this Dan Ashworth deal over the line because he's on gardening leave at the minute. They want 20 million quid. United are like, we ain't going to pay 20 million quid for him. Then there was all this talk as well of Newcastle wanting Dan Ashworth to take over after the transfer window, after the summer transfer window, which is obviously a non-start for Manchester United because we needed him in for the transfer window. So that looked like a bit of a sticking point. That's why Sir Jim Ratcliffe apparently has got involved himself and is going to hopefully get that deal over the line. We need Dan Ashworth in place, don't we, for the summer. He needs to sort of get his hands on the club and let us know what, take control of what needs to be sorted. You also look at the fact you've got Omar Barada coming in. Them two need to work together, plus Jason Wilcox. It seems insane if you've got Omar Barada, you've got Jason Wilcox, and you still haven't got Dan Ashworth once the transfer window opens. I don't see how that works. I think that'd be a nonsense, and I think that Manchester United need to get it done. And I think they will. I think from what we gather, it looks like it's moving forward. It's just... yeah, it's a bit of like, brinksmanship, shall we say, between Newcastle United and Manchester United at the minute. I get Newcastle are a bit annoyed that Dan Ashworth is leaving, but they'll want to get their replacement in place. I think they're going for Paul Mitchell, to take over from Dan Ashworth. So they'll get him in, and hopefully we'll get Dan Ashworth in at Old Trafford, and we can start moving forward, and we can start sorting out some of the issues that I mentioned in this article that Sir Jim Ratcliffe is unhappy about with, sort of, players' behaviour and all that sort of stuff. The Triathlon channel says, come on guys, like the video. Yeah, hit that like button. Witterbird Vicky says, I think don't see a suitable replacement that is better than Ten Hag. Deku77, Top Lad J. Stephen Harris says he's not the only one. Glenn F says, morning Jay, Erik ten Hag in. After that, it's got to be Tommy Tickles, mark my words. Stephen Harris says, how's any of these managers going to make these players any better than they have been? You can't polish a turd. Dear. Well, I think at the minute that's the way everyone feels about the Manchester United players. They're not exactly popular amongst a lot of fans at the minute. We need to see a big improvement this weekend, and you've got a winnable game there against Coventry City. You lose that game in the FA Cup semi-final, then I think Erik ten Hag is going to be in serious trouble, and I think some of these players will be joining him out the exit door. Let's talk about Joao Neves. This is from Caught Offside even. It says Manchester United seriously considering a move for £120 million, or 120 million euros, I should say, rated midfielder. Now, this has come from Record, I think, in Portugal. We've been linked with Benfica midfielder Joao Neves for quite some time now. Now, the sticking point, obviously, or the reason you think, is this really going to happen, is that price, 120 million euros. What we gather from the new sort of regime is that we're not going to go out and spend these huge amounts of money on players like we have been doing. You know, we've spent big money, haven't we? Ever since Sir Alex Ferguson retired. You look at some of the transfers we've made: Angel Di Maria, Paul Pogba, Romelu Lukaku, Harry Maguire. They've all been roughly record-breaking deals, record-breaking defender, record-breaking midfielder, one of the most expensive attackers. Even more recently, you look at Anthony, of course. I think was it 80 million euros or 80 million quid or whatever it was to bring him in. We've spent massive money, and the idea is that we're not going to do that anymore. We're going to sort of aim a little bit lower. It's still big money, but the 50, 60 million pound mark rather than the 70, 80, 90 million pound mark. However, with that being said, these Neves rumours won't go away. And you look at someone like Neves, he's 19 years old, he's absolutely smashing it. He seems like a real talent. He seems like someone who could be, you know, at the very top of world football for the next 15 years. It wouldn't surprise me if United did try and get him. If they looked at him as someone who, you know what, would be worth spending that big money on. The question is, could you get him? That's the one for me. It's not necessarily even would United spend him. I think if United were to have a bit of a summer clear out, which I expect us to do, and we had the funds available, then you could go out and get someone like Neves, and he'd probably be worth getting. Well, he would be worth getting, but would he come to Manchester United? Would he come to Old Trafford if we haven't got Champions League football? Let's be honest, there's a good chance we won't have Champions League football next season. In fact, it's an almost certainty we won't have Champions League football next season, not just a good chance. It's pretty much nailed on. So is he going to come to Old Trafford? You can still get players, top-level players, when you haven't got Champions League football. I mentioned Pogba earlier. We brought him in, we didn't have Champions League football. We brought in Zlatan, we didn't have Champions League football. I think Mkhitaryan joined in that window as well. So, and these were all players that are highly rated. Pogba is one of the most sort of spoken about and highly rated midfielders in the world. Zlatan, one of the best strikers in the world. We were able to bring them in without Champions League football because it's Manchester United. It's a huge club, and obviously you're paying them a lot of money as wages as well. So it can be done. The question is, will it be done? Let me know what you think. Do you think Neves is worth it? Would you like to see him coming in? I think him and Kobbie Mainoo in that midfield, mate, that'd be one for the ages, wouldn't it? Adam says, can't see Ineos spending big money on one player. I understand that. The issue you've got, right, is if you want to catch, and I say this all the time because it's something, you know, I really believe. If you want to catch the likes of City, Liverpool, Arsenal, I think whilst you don't want to go out and keep spending huge amounts of money, you might have to spend big money on at least one player. Arsenal have done it with Declan Rice. They spent 120 million, was it, on him? And he's worth it for him. I mean, he's been one of their best players this season, one of the best players in the Premier League this season. City did it with Jack Grealish. Obviously, City already had a very, very strong squad. But even they did it when, look, he's worth it for us. Because whilst they spend lots of money, they don't tend to spend £100 million on players. But they did it with Grealish because they thought it was worth it. You look at Liverpool, they did it with Darwin Núñez. I think they spent €100 million on him because he was the striker they really wanted. Chelsea, obviously, it looked like they're getting their act together, mainly because of Cole Palmer, regardless of anyone else. But they've spent big money on a lot of players. And the thing is, can United get to the top without spending big money on at least one player? Probably. It can be done. Does it have to be a little bit more long-term, though? I don't know. Let me know what you think. Doyley says, morning, Jay. We need to keep Erik ten Hag. Otherwise, we're just doing what the Glazers did. A manager every other season. We need to give him time like no other teams have done with their managers. Let me know what you think about that. Do you think we do need to give Erik ten Hag time? I mean, my default setting with managers at Manchester United is give them time. And I like Erik ten Hag. I do. But the results are getting away from him. And it's getting more and more difficult to defend him. And I've defended him. I've defended him a lot. But you keep losing in games or dropping points, especially to some of the teams we've dropped points to. I don't know how patient Ineos are going to be with that. We're not going to get Champions League football next season. It's highly unlikely for me, or at least unlikely we're going to win a trophy. If we end up finishing 7th or 8th, which could happen, we could have our lowest ever Premier League finish and end up trophyless. Does he still keep his job? Especially with new owners coming in. Because they can go, well, look, we didn't hire him. He's not our guy. Yes, he won the Carabao Cup and finished 3rd in his first season, a very good first season, but you can't dine out on that forever. Let me know what you think. A lot of people in the chat this morning seem to be sort of gearing towards or advocating for keeping Erik ten Hag. I've got no problem with that. I'm at the sort of point where I'm not trying to sit on the fence here. If it was up to me, I would give Erik ten Hag another season. I've said that all along. However, I get the argument against it because of what I'm watching. And it ain't easy to watch. It's not. Other than the Liverpool FA Cup game, I think the football over the last, Jesus Christ, you could probably say since the season started, to be honest with you, hasn't been good enough. It's just whether you can give him a pass for this season almost. You know, we'll just write the season off and we'll stick with you. maybe you can. I don't know. Adam says, FA Cup is paramount and it gets us into Europa. I agree. I mean, this is where we're at. Ed says, Ten Hag isn't their guy. The team are free-falling and it's easier to sack managers than players. There's no way they keep. AYTV says, is he the next Rodri? If not, leave it. Talking about Joao Neves. We need a sustainable midfield general. Bruno is uber creative and Kobe box to box. Cassett is stuck in the mud. Find the next Rodri, Carrick, Busquets, open goal. I mean, I'd love to find the next any of them. If we can find any of the next one of those players, we are absolutely laughing. They don't grow on trees, though, did it? Tyler Wood says, we can't dine out on that forever. It hasn't even been a full season since his last trophy, Jay. I get that, but at the end of this season, when you take stock, then you go, okay, last season he won a trophy. If he doesn't win one this season, I don't know whether they're going to stick with him. Like I said to you earlier, if it's up to me, I probably would give him a chance under Ineos, but does that mean that Ineos are going to do that? I'm not so sure. Hit that like button, people. Look, come on, let's get to at least 200 likes. We've not even got to 100 so far. If you're watching, hit the like button. If you're not doing already, subscribe to the channel. Let's talk about, just talking about midfield. Let's talk about Joao Neves. Is he going to come to the club? Let's talk a little bit about Sofian Amrabat. There's an opinion piece in Manchester Evening News, I think it's Stephen Railston, and he's talking about this, the idea that we've wasted money on Sofian Amrabat. It's a weird one with Amrabat because there was all this hype, wasn't there? I remember the Arsenal game when we lost the Emirates and people going, wait till Amrabat gets here, he's going to be the answer to all our problems, he's going to solve everything. And it mentions it in the article here as well. There was that clip of him running alongside Kylian Mbappe in the World Cup, and everyone was saying, yeah, he's, wait till we get him in the Premier League. Now, he did have a very good game in the Europa Conference Final against West Ham. A lot of people looked at that. A lot of people like myself haven't seen a lot of him, thought, okay, then maybe, he is the real deal. However, it's not just that he hasn't really done it at Manchester United, it's like the managers give up on him as well. And this article goes into it and it's sort of talking about the fact that a lot of the scouts weren't too enamoured of him too, and yet the manager seemed to sort of say, well, he's still my guy. And yeah, it's just been really weird. It's been a really weird signing because he's never really got going, has it? Now, he is out here on loan as well, so it's not even like a case of, well, he's got next season to prove himself, because next season he's probably going to end up back at Fiorentina. Yeah, it's been a really disappointing signing for me so far. I don't want to give up on the kid because he's only been here, 6 months? But time is running out for him. And if you've got a manager that's brought you in that doesn't even rate you, and that manager himself is under pressure, I just don't know if Sofian Amrabat's going to have a happy ending at Manchester United. Pause. I don't think this is going to go the way we wanted it to. And I thought, from all the noise I was seeing on social media and from certain people, that, oh yeah, Sofian Amrabat is going to be the answer to all our problems. He's going to come into the midfield and he's going to be, the next Roy Keane. And he hasn't. He's been a player that, more often than not, doesn't even get off the bench. I mean, just not happened at all. And it's quite an interesting opinion piece, that, because it's an opinion I see being shared a lot at the minute. People sort of saying, what is going on with Sofian Amrabat? Why did we get him? How did all this go wrong? Like, was he overhyped? Did the manager get it wrong? Why wasn't the scouts listened to? Who had their reservations? Was it just people looking at social media clips getting a bit too giddy? Did the Morocco World Cup run sort of skew our view on him? I don't know. It is a sad one because in theory, he's the type of midfielder you need. But in reality, he hasn't been good enough. And like I said, I don't want to give up on a player who's still in his first season at Manchester United, but you can see there, United paid £8.5 million to sign Amrabat on loan from Fiorentina, and he was signed to deputise for Casemiro, yet he's failed to get the nod over the declining Brazilian. Yeah, Casemiro hasn't been great, but Sofian Amrabat doesn't look like he's ever going to get in a team ahead of him, to be honest with you. And it says there, the €10 million loan fee must be considered a waste, and it's probably at least 1,000 to 1 odds that United will trigger their option to sign him on a permanent deal this summer for €25 million. I mean, €25 million for a midfielder, 27-year-old, it's not even that much, really, is it? If he was any good, you look at that and you go, what a bargain. €25 million, what's that, about 20 million quid? You don't get players for that price anymore at Manchester United or in the Premier League even. Even like the teams that are struggling to spend a lot more than 20 million quid on players. But you may as well set fire to that if he's going to carry on playing the way he's playing. And if you've got a manager who doesn't rate him, what's the point? Just doesn't seem any reason to pursue that deal. And it's a shame because I had high hopes. And I think there's been glimpses from Amrabat, but he's also had some moments as well that have gone against him. And I think, you look at, was it the Manchester derby? I mean, it's not exactly an easy game to come into, but then, you make a mistake, it leads to a goal. People looking at it. I mean, he was sold a bit of a duffer with the pass. I can't remember who it was. Was it someone gave him a terrible pass? I've forgotten. I've almost erased that from my mind. I think it was Casemiro gave him a bad pass, and anyway, it led to a goal. But yeah, it's not been a great time for him. I don't think he'll end up staying, and it'll just be sort of one of those where he almost becomes a quiz question moving forward. I hope I'm wrong, as always. David Garner says, I'd still sign him. Even as a squad player, you could make profit next summer if he's not getting better. Ash House says he's arrived with an injury, played out of position and not really given a run in the team. A little bit unfair, to be honest. He thinks it's unfair. Let me know what you think. AAAAA says need to bring in a couple of centre-halves and full-backs. X86 Bat says Amrabat's agent PowerPoint presentation was the gif of Mbappe. Yeah, that Mbappe clip did the rounds, didn't it? And everyone sort of based their opinion on him due to the 10-second clip. Wasn't 10 seconds, about 5 seconds. United have signed a youngster dubbed the Scouse Messi. You see this in the Mirror here. It says Man United seal deal with Scouse Lionel Messi as Wonder Kid signs long-term contract. Good to see we're not putting pressure on him then, comparing him to the greatest player of all time. Jesus wept. And he's just turned 17 as well last week. So, yeah, let's just pile on loads of pressure on a 17-year-old. It says Manchester United wonder kid Shea Lacey has signed his first professional contract with the club this week after celebrating his 17th birthday over the weekend. The teenager, dubbed the Scouse Lionel Messi, has yet to make his senior debut for United. However, after some impressive form at under-18 level, he was invited by Eric Ten Hag to join first-team training this month. Goes on to talk about youngsters doing well at Manchester United and how we do all... we do like to give young players a chance. Listen, we have heard a lot of good things about Shea Lacey. He has been spoken about very, very highly by people who've watched him. Obviously, the Scouse Lionel Messi moniker is probably a little bit OTT, but you can understand why people are excited about this young player. I hope he has a very, very bright future at Manchester United, and I hope we use him in the right way. It's always a temptation when you have these players, they come through the ranks and doing really well, and there's a lot of hype. Just throw them in, keep throwing them in, and look at Kobbie Mainoo. Kobbie Mainoo's the exception rather than the rule. You have to be sort of careful with young players, and at times Manchester United have overdone it. Post Sir Alex Ferguson, we've thrown young players in before they're ready. Saying that, if he is ready, play him, great. I just think you need to be a little bit careful. From one extreme to the other, from a youngster who's getting into the team to a player whose time at Manchester United is done. Anthony Martial. See this from Fabrizio Romano. He'll leave Manchester United at the end of the season, no doubts. He's going to pick his favourite option. I think this was last night, but we've not spoke about it. As the next club in the coming months, now focused on recovery. It's just really sad what happened with Anthony Martial. It all just petered out, didn't it? I mean, he should have gone when he went to Sevilla. That season, that should have been his last season at the club. When you're getting loaned out in your mid-20s after you've been a first-team player for the last 5 years, I mean, it's kind of ridiculous. I don't know any club that does that. Can you name me a top-level club, and by all means, everyone's going to get involved in the chat now and prove me wrong, but can you name me a top-level club that has a striker who's banged in loads of goals for him and they spent a load of money on, and then they loan him out when he's in his mid-20s? I think it's practically unheard of. There's probably one or two that it's happened to, but it's not common. It's really sad. That should have been the time when you went, right, okay, let's just sell him. But the problem was he went to Sevilla and had a bit of a stinker. I remember, I think Lopetegui was the manager there, and he called him out after his first game. He said he needs to improve. And then I think he scored 1 goal, was it, in the Europa League while he was in Seville. I mean, didn't exactly put himself in the shop window, didn't exactly convince anyone that, he was good enough to start Manchester United. However, then he gets a second chance because Eric Ten Hag comes in, and obviously he rated him because he started him in pre-season. I was in pre-season in Thailand and Australia when Anthony Martial was playing again. He looked like he was up for it, did really well. Then he gets an injury. I think it was in Norway, wasn't it, in the pre-season game against Atletico Madrid, I think it was. Gets that injury. He's back in the team, in and out. Scores some goals. You remember him coming on against City, the Etihad, getting a couple of goals. His goal per 90 minutes last season was quite decent. But the straw that broke the camel's back, I think, for Eric Ten Hag and for everyone else, was him getting injured on the last game of the season, the last Premier League game of the season, and he wasn't even available for the FA Cup final. And to be honest with you, we probably could have done with him. This season, he's just been almost non-existent for Manchester United. I think he's got a couple of goals, but he's done in it. time to move on. We wish him well. I'm going to wrap it up there. Thanks for everyone who got involved in the chat and the comments. Make sure, if you're not doing already, you are hitting that like button and subscribe to the channel. We're going to have some more videos coming up later on today. We're going to be looking at who could be the next Manchester United manager. Sorry, let me do that again. We're going to be looking at who will be the manager for Manchester United, or who could be the manager for Manchester United next season. Is it going to be Erik ten Hag, or will it be one of the other candidates? So make sure you check that out. I've been Motty. This has been the Paper Talk live from the studio. Thanks for watching.